Hello aficionados, this is Bad Habit Club on the channel Criticize More. If you're here, you already know this isn't about random places. This is about taste, ritual, and how you choose to experience it. Subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Let's begin. Most people think that the cigar world is closed. Private clubs, hidden doors, memberships you don't have. But here is the truth. Some of the most iconic cigar lounges in the world you can walk into. No invitation, no status, just taste. And today I'm showing you where. This is not a tourist list. This is not top 10 places from Google. These are places where the atmosphere matters, where the ritual is respected and where you don't feel like an outsider. And most importantly, places you can actually enter. Very first place, London. London is one of the first cities that comes to mind when you think about cigar lounges. Not because it's trendy, not because it's loud, but because it's established. Cigar culture here, it's not something new. It's been part of the city for decades. And you feel it, not in one place, but across the city. Different areas, different atmosphere, different rooms. From historic spaces to hotel terraces to quiet, more district lounges. London doesn't give you one version of cigar culture. It gives you options. And that's what makes it important. So if you want to understand where cigar culture still lives, this is one of the cities you start with. And these are the places I would go to first. James J. Fox. If you want a proper starting point in London, this is it. James J. Fox is one of the oldest cigar merchants in the world, located in St. James, the heart of London's cigar scene. You go there for cigars first, a serious humidor, strong selection of Cuban and non-Cuban cigars, including classic lines and more refined choices. You choose a cigar and then you stay. There is a dedicated space where you can sit and smoke, take your time and focus on the cigar without distraction. This is the kind of place where people actually understand what they are smoking. 10 Manchester Street Hotel. 10 Manchester Street is a different format. This is a hotel-based cigar lounge, so the experience is more structured. They have a cigar shop on site with a curated selection from accessible options to more premium lines. You can choose your cigar and stay there to smoke. There is also a dedicated cigar terrace and indoor areas designed for smoking. What makes this place different? You can pair your cigar with a drink. Whiskey, cocktail, full bar service. This is where I would go when I want more than just the cigar. Termos Mayfair. Termos is a classic cigar shop format with a lounge attached. They have a walked-in humidor with a wide selection of Cuban and non-Cuban cigars across different price levels. You choose a cigar and stay to smoke. The setup is straightforward, focused on the cigar itself rather than the surrounding experience. This is where I would go when I want to focus on the cigar and take my time with it. Boisdale's of Belgravia. Boisdale is not a cigar lounge in the classic sense. This is a restaurant and bar with a cigar terrace. You come here first for the dinner, for the drinks, for the atmosphere, and then you stay for the cigar. They do have a cigar selection on site, so you can choose something there and smoke on the terrace. But the cigar here is not the main focus. It's part of the experience. This is where I would go when I want an evening out that naturally ends with a cigar. Switzerland. Switzerland is different. It's not loud, it's not trying to be seen, but when it comes to cigars, it's one of the strongest markets in Europe. Not just in terms of consumptions, but in terms of culture. Some of the most important cigar brands are based here. Some of the most serious collections are stored here. The people who smoke cigars here, they know what they are doing. You don't always see it from the outside, but once you step in, you understand the level. And just like London, Switzerland gives you different format. But here, everything feels more controlled, more precise. Davidoff of Geneva flagship store. If you start anywhere in Switzerland, you start with Davidoff in Geneva. This is not just a cigar shop, this is one of the key names in the cigar world. Inside you have a full humidor with a wide selection of Davidoff cigars and other premium brands. You choose your cigar and stay. There is a dedicated lounge space where you can sit and smoke. And what makes it different? the level of precision. Everything feels curated, everything is controlled, service, atmosphere, selection. This is where I would go when I want a clean, high-level cigar experience. La Casa del Habano. In Switzerland, you'll find several La Casa del Habano locations in cities like Geneva, Zurich, and even places like Samnon, on top of the world. And the concept is consistent. These are spaces focused entirely on Cuban cigars. Inside you have a humidor dedicated to Habanos, from classic lines to more limited releases. You go there to choose your cigar, but not only that. Many locations also have lounge areas where you can stay and smoke. So it's not just a retail space. It's a place where you select the cigar, sit down and take your time with it. This is where I would go when I want to focus specifically on Cuban cigars. Cigar Lounge Grand Hotel, Kempinski, Geneva. This is a hotel format. At Kempinski, Geneva, you have a dedicated cigar lounge space within a 5-star hotel. The setup is more polished. You sit down, order a drink, choose a cigar, and stay. Selection is curated, not overly wide, but consistent with the level of the place. This is where I would go when I want a more structured hotel-style experience. The Shetty Andermatt Cigar Lounge. This is a completely different setting. The Shetty is a luxury Alpen hotel, and their cigar lounge reflects that. Warm interior, fireplace, controlled atmosphere. You choose your cigar and stay in the lounge. This is not a city experience. This is slower, more private, and more intentional. This is where I would go when I want to disconnect and focus fully on the moment. Switzerland doesn't give you volume. It gives you precision. Fewer places, but a higher level of control. And once you understand that, you stop looking for options. You start choosing quality. New York. New York is a completely different rhythm. Faster, louder, more social. Cigar culture here is not hidden. It's integrated into the city. You don't go somewhere to disconnect. You go somewhere to stay in the energy, but shift it. In New York, a cigar is not always a separate ritual. It becomes part of the night, and the places reflect that. Davidoff of Geneva since 1911 flagship store. If you want a clean, structured experience in New York, this is one of the first places to go. Davidoff in New York City is a flagship space. Inside you have a large humidor with a full Davidoff range and other premium cigars. You choose a cigar and stay. There is a dedicated lounge area and a bar, so you can pair your cigar with drink. Whiskey, cocktail, full service. The setup is very controlled, very consistent. This is where I would go when I want more polished, predictable experience in New York. Berkeley Rex. Berkeley Rex is a very clear format. This is a cigar shop with a public lounge. They have a walk-in humidor with a strong premium selection. You choose a cigar and stay to smoke. There is also a private club in the same space, but the lounge itself is open. So the structure is simple and easy to understand. This is where I would go when I want a straightforward cigar experience in the city. Casa de Monte Cristo. Casa de Monte Cristo is a classic cigar lounge setup. Large humidor, wide selection of premium cigars, and a space designed for smoking. You come in, choose your cigar, sit down, and stay. The atmosphere is more relaxed but still structured around the cigar. This is where I would go when I want a dedicated lounge without extra complexity. Soho Cigar Bar. Soho Cigar Bar is a different format. This is a cigar bar. You come here for cigars, but also for drinks and food. Cocktails, full bar, a more social evening atmosphere. You can sit, order, choose a cigar, and stay. This is where I would go when I want a more dynamic setting around the cigar. New York gives you range, from structured lounges to cigar bars to more relaxed spaces. And the key difference is this. Here, the cigar doesn't separate you from the city. It becomes part of it. Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the most interesting cigar cities in the world. Not because it's traditional, but because it blends everything. luxury, business, nightlife. Cigar culture here is part of that mix. You'll find lounges inside hotels, bars, private spaces, and some of them are among the most refined in Asia. And the formats here are very different. Davido of Geneva since 1911, Hong Kong. Davido in Hong Kong follows the same structure you've seen before, but adapted to the city. You have a premium humidor with a full Davido range and other high-end cigars. You choose your cigar and you stay. Very clean, very controlled. This is where I would go when I want consistency and reliable high-level setup. Cohiba Atmosphere Hong Kong. Cohiba Atmosphere is a specific concept. These are official spaces focused on Cuban cigars. Inside you have a humidor dedicated to Habanos, including high-end and limited releases. There is a lounge area where you can sit and smoke, usually with drinks available. This is more curated, more brand-driven. This is where I would go when I want a Cuban-focused experience in a controlled environment. The Aubrey at Mandarin Oriental, Hong Kong. This is a different format. The Aubrey is a bar inside Mandarin Oriental. This is not a cigar lounge in the classic sense, but they have an outdoor terrace where cigars are part of the experience. You come here for cocktails, for the atmosphere, and then add a cigar. This is where I would go when I want a more elevated, night-focused setting. Pacific Cigar Lounge, Hong Kong. Pacific Cigar is one of the key players in Asia. They operate multiple cigar shops across Hong Kong. Some of their locations include lounge spaces where you can stay and smoke. You have access to a wide range of premium cigars, including Cuban and non-Cuban options. This is a more classic cigar format. You choose a cigar and you stay. Hong Kong is not simple. It mixes formats: retails, luxury bars, brand spaces, and that's the key difference. You don't go to one type of place, you choose the experience you want. Dubai. Dubai is not about tradition, it's about presentation. Everything here is designed, everything is elevated, and cigar culture follows the same logic. You don't just go somewhere to smoke, you go somewhere that looks like it was built for it. Luxury hotels, terraces, private filling spaces. Dubai turns cigars into part of a visual experience. And the formats here are very specific. Davido of Geneva since 1911, Dubai. Davido in Dubai follows the same high-level structure. You have a premium humidor with a strong selection of Davido and other cigars. There is a lounge area and bar service, so you can pair cigars with drinks. Everything is clean, controlled, and consistent. This is where I would go when I want a reliable, high-end cigar setup in Dubai. Dubai doesn't give you subtlety. It gives you presentation. Strong visuals, clear formats, high-level spaces. And cigars become part of that. Tokyo. Tokyo is very different. It's not about scale, it's not about showing off, it's about precision. Small spaces, controlled environments, attention to detail. Cigar culture here is quiet, but very intentional. You don't stumble into it, you choose it. And the places reflect that. Le Connoisseur, Ginza. Le Connoisseur is one of the most established cigar bars in Tokyo. Located in Ginza, it's a proper cigar bar format. You have a humidor, premium cigar selection, strong focus on drinks. You sit, order a drink, choose your cigar, and stay. It's known as a place that works both for beginners and experienced smokers. This is where I would go for a classic Tokyo cigar experience. Tableau Lounge. Tableau Lounge is a cigar lounge with a strong bar and music component. They have a humidor with premium cigars, cocktails and drinks, live jazz performances. It's a full experience. You sit, drink, smoke, and stay. The setting is more refined. Leather, seating, low light, and a very controlled atmosphere. This is where I would go when I want cigars with music and atmosphere. Maduro at Grand Hyatt, Tokyo. Maduro is a hotel cigar bar format. Located inside Grand Hyatt, Tokyo, it's a late-night bar with cigars as part of the experience. You have drinks, food, cigar-friendly environment. It operates as a lounge where you sit, order, and stay. This is a classic example of a hotel cigar bar in Tokyo. This is where I would go for a more structured evening setting. Tokyo is not about volume, it's about precision. Fewer places, but very specific formats. Cigar bars, hotels, lounges, brand spaces. And each one feels intentional. Caribbean. The Caribbean is different. This is not where cigar culture is displayed, this is where it comes from. Dominican Republic, Cuba, Nicaragua. This is where cigars are made, not just consumed. So the experience changes. You are not entering a lounge, you are entering the environment where cigars are part of everyday life. Casa de Campo Cigar Lounge. Casa de Campo is one of the most established luxury resorts in the Dominican Republic. Inside you have cigar lounges and cigar-focused spaces. You can choose cigar on site, sit, and smoke within the resort environment. The selection is strong, with access to Dominican cigars and premium international brands. This is a structured environment, but still connected to the region. This is where I would go when I want a controlled, high-level experience inside the Caribbean. La Aurora Cigar World. La Aurora is not just a brand, it's one of the oldest cigar manufacturers in the Dominican Republic. Cigar World is their visitor space. You can see production, choose cigars, and smoke on site. This is not a classic lounge. It's a factory experience with a smoking environment. This is where I would go when I want to connect directly to how cigars are made. Davidoff Cigars Dominican Republic Factory and Lounge. Davidoff's production in the Dominican Republic is one of the most controlled cigar environments in the world. At their factory location, you have access to cigars on site and spaces where you can smoke. This is not about a lounge in the classic sense. This is about seeing the full cycle from production to smoking. This is where I would go when I want a deeper understanding of the cigar itself. The Caribbean is not about variety, I would say, it's about origin. You don't go there to choose between lounges. You go there to understand cigars differently. Cuba. The Caribbean is where cigars come from, but there is one place that stands on its own, and it's Cuba. Cuba is about origin. This is where cigars are not presented, they're part of everyday life. So the format changes. You don't always go to a lounge, you go to a place where cigars naturally belong. And there are a few that define that experience. La Casa del Habano is the reference in Cuba. You'll find multiple locations across Havana. You go there to choose your cigar, from classic lines to more limited releases. And in many of these locations, you can stay and smoke. This is where I would go when I want a direct Cuban cigar experience. Hotel Nacional de Cuba. Hotel Nacional is one of the most iconic places in Havana. You don't go here just for cigars. You come for the setting. Terrace, open space, classic Havana atmosphere. You sit, order a drink, and smoke. This is not a controlled lounge. This is Cuba. This is where I would go when I want the full atmosphere of Havana with a cigar. Partagas Factory. Partagas is one of the most famous cigar factories in Cuba. Right next to it, you have a shop where you can buy cigars. This is not a lounge, but this is where the experience becomes real. You choose a cigar at the source and then step outside and smoke it in Havana. This is where I would go when I want to connect directly to the origin of the cigar. Cuba doesn't give you polished spaces. It gives you context, history, origin, atmosphere. And that changes how you experience a cigar. You've seen different cities, different formats, different approaches, from London to Switzerland, to New York, to Dubai, to Tokyo, and back to where it all begins. And the point is simple, there is no single way to experience cigars. You don't just choose what to smoke, you choose where and how you experience it. Some places are structured, some are social, some are quiet, some are raw, but the difference is not in the cigar, it's in the setting. So the next time you travel, don't just look for cigars, look for the right place to smoke them. If this helped you see the cigar world differently, you know what to do. subscribe. And if you want more of this, not just places, but the culture behind it, follow us on Instagram. So I'll see you there. Bye!